Okay, so let's just be real for a sec.
Hmm.
Retiring at 40. Who wouldn't want that, right?
Right.
Ditch the 9 to 5. You're young enough to actually enjoy it. Sounds
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
But, and this is a big ball, but for most people, it feels totally impossible.
Totally. Yeah.
But this guide we're looking at today, it's called How to Retire at 40, The Secrets to Early Retirement. Catchy title.
Yeah.
And it claims it is doable with the right strategies.
Interesting.
So we're going to break it all down, the key stuff, and you can decide if early retirement is something you actually want to, look into more seriously.
Okay. Sounds good.
First things first, this guide, it's all about savings, but not the usual save 10%, hope for the best kind of thing.
Yeah.
This is different.
Different how? Well, have you heard of the FIRE community?
Vaguely, yeah, financial independence, retire early, right? That's the one.
Yeah.
And this guide's all about it. They say you need to be saving way more, like 50 to 70% of your income.
Wait, 50 to 70? That's a lot.
Right. That's what I thought. It shows how different this whole approach is.
Yeah, that's not your grandma's retirement plan. But hold on, before everyone listening just tunes out thinking, no way I can save that much, there's two sides to this, right? It's not just cutting back. The guide's big on earning more, too.
So it's like a complete money makeover, work and everything.
Kinda, yeah. It challenges that whole work for decades, then retire thing. You gotta be more proactive, starting like now.
Okay, so while we're all letting that sink in, saving a ton, what does this actually look like?
Hmm.
The guide mentions hitting early retirement with about $2 million saved up, especially for the what they call lean fire folks.
Lean fire, that's the extreme frugality one, right?
That's it. And yeah, $2 million sounds crazy. But they're saying it's not about being miserable. It's about spending smart.
Okay, but what does that even mean practically?
Yeah, give us an example. What kind of changes would someone going lean fire actually have to make?
Well, think smaller living space, maybe ditching the car, cutting back on anything you don't absolutely need. The guide talks about that. A big change from how most people live.
Yeah, it's definitely a trade-off. Less stuff, but way more freedom.
Right, and that's why it's not for everyone. You got to decide what really matters to you.
Sounds like lean fire takes some serious willpower and a pretty minimalist lifestyle.
It does. But the guide gets that not everyone's into that. There's another side to this whole retiring early thing.
Yeah.
Making more money in the first place.
So saving more is one thing, but then there's earning more too. That's where fat fire comes in.
You got it. Still retiring early, but with more saved up. More wiggle room, maybe even some luxuries.
Instead of just cutting back, we're talking side hustles, salary negotiations, even path of income.
Exactly. The guide's big on multiple income streams. Rental properties, dividends, even starting an online business, that kind of stuff. More money coming in. And it means you're not relying on just one thing.
Wow, this is like a whole shift from employee to, I don't know, entrepreneur, investor.
Right. It's not just about early retirement. It's about really owning your finances.
This guide's full of surprises. Okay, so we're saving like crazy, hustling on the side, but eventually that money's got to work for us, right? Time to talk investing.
Absolutely. And the guide makes it clear early retirement usually means investing differently, more aggressively than if you're retiring at 65 or whatever.
Okay.
Think about it. Retire early, your money's got to last longer. You need bigger returns to beat inflation, make sure you're covered for decades, potentially.
Right, so we're not talking about that savings account gathering dust. This guide mentions index funds, ETFs, maybe even some real estate or venture capital. For someone who's new to this, what should they know?
Index funds, ETFs, good place to start. They're in the guide. Diversification's key, spreads the risk, and there's potential for growth over time. Real estate, venture capital, that can work for some people, but do your research, it's riskier.
Important to remember that. Every investment has some risk.
Right. Absolutely, and that's where knowing your own risk tolerance is huge. What freaks one person out is no big deal to another.
Finding that balance, right?
Yeah.
Investments that can grow, but you're not going to lose sleep over them.
Exactly. And honestly, this is where getting advice, a financial advisor, someone who gets you and what you're aiming for, it can be really valuable.
Makes sense. All right, so we've tackled saving a ton, boosting our income, and investing it right. But the big question, the one everyone's wondering,
Yeah.
healthcare. If you're retiring at 40, what about insurance? Medicare's ages away.
Yeah, that's the big one. It's definitely something the guide addresses.
So what's the solution? How do you bridge that healthcare gap?
Well, they talk about a few options. Private insurance, ACA plans, maybe staying on a spouse's plan if that's possible. Some people even pick up part-time work just for the health benefits.
Sounds like there's no easy answer.
No, it really depends on your situation. Health, Where you live, what you need, it all factors in. The guide really emphasizes doing your research.
Not a deal breaker then, but definitely something to plan for carefully.
Definitely. And it just shows this whole early retirement thing, it's not just about money.
It's about your whole life.
Exactly. Speaking of which, let's talk taxes. It's not how much you make, it's how much you keep, right? And if you retire early,
Taxes get even more important.
way more. Every dollar you save on taxes, it's a dollar that can stay invested, potentially grow even more.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Although, gotta be honest, the guide throws around terms like Roth IRA, tax loss harvesting, even something called a mega backdoor Roth IRA. And I'm like, whoa, slow down.
Yeah, it can get pretty complex. The guide doesn't go into every little detail.
But the point is, tax planning is key.
Huge, especially if you're retiring early. It's often way more important than for people retiring at the usual age.
So where do you even start?
That's where a good financial advisor is worth their weight in gold. They can help you make sense of it all, find ways to legally pay less tax.
Got it. Okay, we've covered saving, earning, investing, healthcare, even taxes. That's a lot.
It's a lot to think about.
And we're not even done. Okay, so we're back, and I gotta say, with all this talk about how much to save, how to invest, lean fire, fat fire, it's easy to forget there's a whole other side to early retirement.
What's that?
Life after work. Like,
Yeah.
you've got the money, now what? How does it actually change your day-to-day, your relationships?
Right. It's not just about having a big pile of cash. It's what you do with all that freedom.
Right, exactly. And the guy talks about this too. It's not enough to just quit a job you hate. You need something to replace it, something good.
Makes sense. Otherwise, you're just trading one routine for another, even if the new one involves, like, way more sleeping in.
Right. And the guy actually calls this Life 2.0 the remix, which I love.
Clever. So how do you make sure it's a remix you actually enjoy long term?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
Well, according to the guide, it starts with figuring out what really matters to you. What are you passionate about? What kind of impact do you want to make? Those big questions.
So not just what do I want to do all day, but who do I want to be?
Yeah, it's deeper than that.
Mm-hmm.
It's about finding purpose, even without a job title.
And the guide's big on this purpose, meaning it's crucial for happiness, especially if you're talking about decades of retirement. Without it, you get bored, lost, even with money.
It's like we're so used to retirement, no work. But this guide's saying maybe it's not that simple.
Yeah, it challenges that assumption. A lot of early retirees, they actually go back to some kind of work.
Really?
Yeah, but on their own intellect terms.
So instead of dreading Monday, it's passion projects, freelancing, maybe even starting that business they always dreamed of.
Exactly. They've got the freedom to work on things they actually care about, not just for a paycheck.
This guide is really making us rethink this whole work-life balance thing, isn't it? Okay, speaking of balance, we got to talk about relationships. Retiring early is not exactly a solo mission. What about your partner, family, friends? How do they fit in?
Yeah, that's a big one the guide doesn't shy away from. It can put a strain on relationships if you're not careful.
I could see that. Like, your partner might not get it, or they're worried about how things will change between you two. What's the guide's take on navigating that?
Open communication is key, like really talking to your partner about your goals, what you're worried about, the whole 9 yards.
Makes sense. Just like any big decision, honesty and compromise, that's crucial.
For sure. And it's not just your partner. The guide talks about the social side of early retirement, too.
That's interesting. Like, what if your whole social life revolves around your job? Retire early, suddenly you're lonely.
It's a real risk. So the guide talks about being proactive. Join clubs, volunteer, really nurture the friendships you do have, or even connect with other early retirees.
Yeah, build a social life that's not dependent on your workplace.
Exactly. It all comes back to having that vision for your life, the one we were talking about. Money's part of it, but it's got to be about your whole well-being. Friends, family, all of it.
Man, this is a lot to think about. The mindset shift, finding your purpose, figuring out work, relationships.
It's a lot to process, for sure. Early retirement, it's a huge change. And you really have to think about both sides, the money stuff, A&D, everything else.
So it'd be easy to jump the gun, hear all this, and be like, I'm in, let's do it. But the guide probably doesn't recommend that, huh?
You're right. They're all about taking it slow. You don't have to flip your whole life upside down overnight.
So what's a good first step for someone who's intrigued by all this, but maybe feeling a little, I don't know, overwhelmed?
The guide's big on starting small. Don't try to do everything at once. Maybe track your spending, see where you can cut back, slowly bump up those savings.
Little by little, build those good habits.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of knowledge. Read up on this stuff. Personal finance, investing, all of it.
This deep dive's a good start, but it's really just scratching the surface. There's a ton of information out there.
It's a journey, figuring it all out. For your money, AD, for your life.
All right, so we're back. And, with all this talk about investment strategies and lean versus fat and all that, it's easy to forget the big question.
The big one, B,
Is retiring at 40 actually sustainable, like long-term?
the million-dollar question, or should I say multi-million-dollar question, given what we're talking about. And the guide, it's funny, it basically says it depends. How you define sustainable. Financially, yeah, it can work if you're careful, disciplined. But there's more to it, right? What about the rest of your life, your happiness 10, 20 years down the line?
That's what I'm wondering. Like, okay, you're not working, but do you just run out of steam eventually?
See, that's where this whole purpose thing comes in again. The guide's big on finding stuff you actually care about, not just things you find fun for a bit.
So not just filling your day, but doing something meaningful.
Exactly. Could be volunteering, some creative thing you're into, even starting a business, or just spending time with people you love. The point is, you've got to have that drive, even without a boss telling you what to do.
It's about designing a life you're excited about, not just escaping a job.
Exactly. And that goes for the money side, too.
How so?
This guide, they're all about staying flexible, reviewing your finances, making changes if you have to. Unexpected stuff happens, even with the best plans.
So even if you retire early, it's not like you just check out completely.
Nope, you got to stay informed, engaged. The guide even suggests, like maybe you do some part-time work down the line if you need to. Things change.
Huh. Almost makes retirement sound like a job in itself.
In a way, yeah. But the difference is you're the boss. You choose where to put your energy. Investing, hobbies, whatever matters to you.
It's really about taking control of your money, but also your whole life.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So after all this, where do we land? Is retiring at 40 a dream or something you can actually do?
I think it's both. It's a great goal, but it takes work, planning, and being honest with yourself about what you really want.
It's not just about hitting a certain age. It's about designing a whole different way to live.
Exactly. And that's something we can all strive for, whether we're aiming for early retirement, a career change, or just feeling more secure about our finances.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
So for anyone listening, no matter where you're at right now, the key takeaways are what? Learn as much as you can, figure out what you want, and then take that first step.
Couldn't agree more.
This has been amazing. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. We hope you learned something, had some aha moments, and maybe feel a little more inspired to take control of your own future. Until next time.